The neighbors will be at the fence any minute now. They can hear the crunch of this great, great bread. Look at that. Everybody wants to know how I make it, and this is going to be how to do it. This is what I started with, and it's a great book if you want to try it out. It's The Artisan Bread in 5 Minutes a Day. I've taken their basic recipe and kind of messed around with it. I use unbleached flour, unbleached white. I find that you can add whole wheat flour to it. I find it makes it a little heavier, and so I add whole grains, and that gives me the whole grain goodness with all the lightness of an unbleached white flour. What you kind of look for is the higher protein. This has 3 grams of protein. This one has 4 grams of protein. But what I found, one of my little secrets that's not in the book, anyway, is to add some vital gluten. And that adds the extra protein that makes the whole thing just wonderful and chewy and crusty. Anyway, what we're going to start with is a cup of very warm water. And I just heated this up. So I'm going to measure out 1 cup. You see it's kind of steaming. 1 cup, there it is. And I'm going to use a tablespoon and a half of kosher salt. And I like to dissolve that in the really hot water. There's 1. Actually, this works out to a nice palmful. So if you want to just, you know, this is, but I'm measuring just so that you can see. So it's a tablespoon and 1½ teaspoons, or a nice palmful. And I have my favorite stick. It's not a spoon, it's a stick. And I got an old spatula, and it's wooden. I love it. And I'm going to just let the salt dissolve in the really hot water. Okay, that's good. And now I'm going to add cool water. So the bottom line is the water in my bowl will just about be room temp. A little warmer. 1, 2. So that was a total 3 cups of water, 1½ tablespoons of kosher salt, 1 small bug that I'm going to take out right now. Come on, guy. That's protein that we don't need, right? Okay, now, perfect. It's just about body temp, a little higher than room temp. Now I'm going to add the yeast. I bought a big block of it, and I keep it in the fridge, but this is the, you know, this is how to buy it. Don't buy it in the little packets because it's just too expensive. Once again, a tablespoon and a half. So here is a tablespoon. And what's going to be a half, which is a teaspoon and a half a teaspoon. Okay. Now we're just going to let that in here. Another little trick I do that is not called for in the book is I'll add a little pinch of sugar. Not a pinch, actually. Maybe one of those packets that you steal from the McDonald's, you know. Or just a little bit of sugar. Just enough to make the yeast happy. One of these little packets, and I'm going to use about half of it. Just enough to give the yeast a little something to nibble on. That's good. I used about half. Now the basic recipe calls for 6½ cups of flour. So, don't pack it in there, just have to kind of dip it and then level it off. There's 1. And here's, this little part is the most work in the whole recipe, and you will be shocked at how little work the most work is. In goes cup number 3. Now we're going to add a half a cup of each. Flax. This is whole grain flax, which just makes it great bread. There's half a cup of flax. And half a cup of brown sesame seeds. Don't get the white ones. Get the brown ones. They're tastier, they're toastier. Okay, so I got a half a cup each. Okay. Another thing I love to put in here is a little bit of dried onion. One of my favorite things to add is dried onion flakes. About a half a cup again, and they are excellent. This just, even if you add jam or you like jam on your bread, this makes it so savory, tasty. And I add all this in at the third cup of flour, because you could fold everything in and makes it nice and even. Okay, so now we're ready for cup number 4 flour. Now this recipe calls for 6.5 cups of flour, and what I found is I do 6 cups of, there's the little mark so I don't forget where I am. I do 6 cups of, and then I add the last half cup of flour is Vital gluten flour, and you can get this, you can get it at Safeway, you can get it just about any place, and it really makes the bread chewier, spongier. It's really good. Anyway, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take and put this half a cup in now, just so I can get the gluten growing. There's a half a cup, and I'm going to add it with cup number 4. Number 5 is sitting over here on the side. Okay. I've just found this little added gluten just makes the best bread. Yeah. This is why I like using this paddle, is I can clean my thing. And I'm just going to go in and do a little bit of kneading. Okay, this is really looking pretty good. There it is. We're going to let that rise for about 4 or 5 hours. Okay, it's 4 hours later, and here's our little pregnant bowl. Ta-da! Look at that. That look good? Oh, it's in there. Anyway, what we're going to do is I'm just going to collapse it, fold it back in a little bit, because sometimes you can put a little olive oil if you like just on the top, and then you don't get this skin. But and I'm going to take the rest of that flour that I had, and I'm going to just sprinkle some of it around. And just fold it in. Oh, God, this is so nice and warm. This is great. Okay. Oh, look at this. Oh, it's a good one. This recipe will make 3 loaves of bread. Put a little bit more flour on them. Get what they call a gluten cloak. Okay, now I have this huge hunk of bread. Now we have several options. What I can do is I'm going to cut off a piece, basically 1/3. Notice I'm not pulling it off, I'm just cutting it off. Because we like those gluten strands to be just really nice. Put a little more flour. And the book says to use corn flour or cornmeal. I find it's a lot better to use a piece of parchment paper. Makes a nice skin on the top. Pop it on the breadboard, and I like to give it 3 slices, and then 3 more at an angle. It makes these little diamond shapes. Here is a little cup of hot water, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce this to my oven, and notice I have a glove on because I'll tell you this is hot and nobody wants a steam burn. There is a pizza stone in my oven that has been preheated to 425 degrees. There's a little aluminum pan at the bottom. I'm going to put the water in the little aluminum pan. Here we go. Okay, good. There's that. Now, I'm going to take my bread, which has, gone half again as big, and put it on the edge of my little bread. Well, here we are. We're ready to open up the oven, and there it is. That just looked great.